Commander Veltak's 4 eyes scanned the tactical display with growing irritation. The bridge of his flagship Dominion's Edge hummed with the quiet efficiency of a well-trained crew, but the news his intelligence officer brought him made his scales ripple with annoyance. "You are certain of this data, Sub-Commander Hishara?" Veltak's voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered 12 worlds for the Nixarian Empire. His massive frame, standing nearly 3 meters tall, cast a shadow over the smaller alien at the communications console. Hishara's tentacles flickered nervously as she rechecked her instruments. "Yes, Commander. The human vessel New Dawn is definitely the same ship we destroyed 3 cycles ago. Yet here it is, very much intact and heading directly toward Kepler 442c. Veltak's mandibles clicked in frustration. The humans were supposed to be extinct in this sector. His fleet had received clear orders months ago: eliminate the colony ship carrying 50,000 human refugees to the disputed Kepler system. The mission had been marked as completed. The humans were weak, primitive creatures with barely functional technology. Destroying them should have been simple. "How did they survive?" Veltak demanded. "Unknown, sir. Perhaps they repaired their ship, or maybe they had backup systems we did not detect." Hishara pulled up more data on her screen. "What concerns me more is their current course. They are ignoring all our territorial warning broadcasts and heading straight for the mineral deposits on Kepler 442c. Veltak studied the readouts. The planet was rich in rare elements that the Nixarian Empire needed for their expansion. They had claimed it fair and square by right of conquest, even if a few other species had protested. The humans had no right to be there. "How many ships do they have?" he asked. "Just one, sir. The same colony transport we thought we destroyed." But Commander ... Hishara hesitated. "Speak. The ship is much larger than our previous reports indicated. Our sensors show approximately 50,000 life signs aboard." Veltak's eyes narrowed. 50,000 humans on a single vessel was unusual, but not impossible. Colony ships were often massive. What bothered him was the implications. If the humans had survived his previous attack and were still pushing into Nixarian space, they were either very brave or very stupid. "What is their combat capability?" he asked his weapons officer. Lieutenant Kextal looked up from his console. "Minimal, sir. Standard human technology. Some defensive shields, basic plasma weapons. Nothing that could threaten even one of our destroyers." "Good." Veltak made his decision quickly. "Set course to intercept? We will finish what we started 3 cycles ago." As his fleet of 12 ships changed direction toward the human vessel, Veltak reviewed what he knew about humans. They were a young species, having only recently developed faster-than-light travel. Their technology was crude compared to Nixarian engineering. They had no real military tradition and seemed to prefer talking over fighting. Most importantly, they were soft, emotionally weak. They cared too much about individual lives to be effective warriors. The intelligence reports had been clear about human weaknesses. They wasted enormous resources caring for their sick and elderly. They spent years educating their young instead of putting them to productive work immediately. They even had laws protecting their children from any kind of useful labor. Such inefficiency made them easy targets for more practical species like the Nixarians. "Commander," Hishara called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing a human male in a simple blue uniform. He had dark hair and calm eyes that seemed too steady. For someone facing a Nixarian battle fleet? The human looked directly at Veltak without any sign of fear, which was unusual. "This is Captain Jinho of the colony ship New Dawn," the human said in accented but clear galactic standard. "We are peaceful civilians traveling to establish a settlement on Kepler 442c. We have no hostile intentions toward your people." Veltak stood to his full height, letting his size and predatory appearance do most of the talking. "Human, you are trespassing in Nixarian space. The world you seek belongs to the Empire. Surrender immediately." Captain Jinho's expression did not change. With respect, Commander, our navigation charts show this system as unclaimed territory. We have legal right of settlement under Galactic Council Resolution 847. The Galactic Council has no authority here. Veltec growled. This is Nixarian space. You will surrender your vessel or be destroyed. I need time to consult with my people. Jinho replied. This is a civilian transport with families aboard. Surely you can give us a few hours to consider our options? Veltec considered this. The human was buying time, obviously, but for what? Their ship could not outrun his fleet, and it certainly could not outfight them. Perhaps the captain hoped to negotiate some kind of deal, or maybe he was just delaying the inevitable to give his people time to prepare for death. You have 2 hours, Veltec decided. Use them wisely. The transmission ended, and Veltec turned to his officers. Deploy the fleet in standard capture formation. When the time expires, we board their ship and process the humans according to protocol. Standard labor conscription, sir? Asked his boarding commander. Yes, adults go to the work camps. Children are disposed of efficiently. Veltec had performed this procedure dozens of times on other worlds. Children were useless for heavy labor and consumed resources without producing anything valuable. The Nixarian way was practical. Eliminate the weak, use the strong dot as his fleet moved into position. Around the massive human colony ship, Veltec felt the familiar satisfaction of a hunt nearly complete. The humans had surprised him by surviving his previous attack, but they would not surprise him again. Their ship was surrounded, outgunned, and trapped. In 2 hours, this minor annoyance would be resolved, and he could return to more important conquest duties. He settled back into his command chair and watched the human vessel on his screen. It looked peaceful enough, with gentle curves and bright lighting visible through its windows. Typical human design, more concerned with comfort than function. He could even see movement inside some of the observation areas. Probably families. Looking out at his fleet, finally realizing their situation was hopeless. The countdown timer showed 1 hour and 57 minutes remaining. Veltec was patient. He had waited 3 cycles to finish this job properly. A few more hours would not matter. The 2 hours passed slowly for Commander Veltec. He spent the time studying the human colony ship through his sensors, looking for any signs of hidden weapons or defensive systems. The new dawn appeared exactly as expected, a large, peaceful transport with basic shields and minimal armament. Nothing that should concern a Nixarian battle fleet. When the deadline arrived, Captain Jinho's face appeared on the screen again. The human still looked calm, which irritated Veltec more than he cared to admit. Commander Veltec, Jinho said, my people have discussed your demands. We cannot abandon our mission. These families have traveled too far and sacrificed too much to turn back now. However, we are willing to share the planet with your people if you wish to establish a joint colony. Veltec's scales rippled with amusement. Humans do not negotiate with the Nixarian Empire. You surrender or you die. Those are your only choices. Then we choose to defend ourselves, Jinho replied simply. The transmission ended before Veltec could respond. He stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his boarding commander. Launch the assault shuttles, full boarding protocol. Subdue the adults for processing. Eliminate the children quickly. Lieutenant Commander Thexik nodded and began barking orders to his troops. Within minutes, 20 assault shuttles launched from the Nixarian ships, each carrying a full squad of heavily armed soldiers. Veltec watched on his tactical display as the shuttles approached the human vessel. Sir, called his sensor operator, the human ship is not trying to run. Of course not, Veltec replied. Where could they go? We have them surrounded. The first shuttle reached the new dawn and began cutting through the hull with plasma torches. Veltec expected to hear reports of quick success within minutes. Instead, his communications crackled with confused voices from his boarding teams. Command, this is Assault Team 1. The human ship's interior is unusual. Explain, Veltec demanded. The corridors branch and twist in ways that make no sense. It's like a maze, sir. We're having trouble finding the main areas, Veltec frowned. Colony ships usually had simple, efficient layouts to maximize space. Why would humans build confusing passages into their vessel? Push forward, he ordered. Find the bridge and the main population areas. More reports came in from other boarding teams. The humans had barricaded themselves behind reinforced barriers and were fighting back with surprising coordination. What bothered Veltek more was what his soldiers were not reporting: screaming civilians, panicking crowds, or easy surrenders. "Team 7 to command," came another voice. "We've reached what looks like a school area. The humans here are—" "Sir, they're not running. What do you mean?" Veltek asked. "The adults are fighting, but the children are helping them. I'm seeing kids operating computer terminals and—" "Wait, one of them just shut down our squad's tactical network." Veltek's 4 eyes narrowed. "Children cannot operate military systems. Sir, I'm telling you what I see. These aren't normal human children. A group of them just rerouted power to their defensive barriers while we were watching." Another team leader broke in. "Command, Team 3 here. We're facing serious resistance in Section C. The humans have turned their own ship systems against us. Environmental controls, lighting, even the artificial gravity is being used as a weapon." Veltek stood up from his command chair. "This was not going according to plan. How many casualties?" 17 soldiers down, sir. Not dead, but unconscious. Or disabled. The humans are using some kind of sleep gas and electrical stunning devices." "Sleep gas?" Veltek was confused. "Why are they not killing you?" "Unknown, sir. They seem to be trying to capture us alive." This made no sense to Veltek. In every previous battle with humans, they had fought desperately but without much skill. They certainly had never used their own children in combat operations, and they definitely had never tried to capture Nexarian soldiers instead of killing them. "Team 1 to command," came an urgent transmission. "We found a large group of humans in what looks like a dining area. Maybe 300 adults and—" "Commander, there are at least 100 children with them. Eliminate the children immediately." Veltek ordered. "Sir, we're trying, but they're not staying still. The kids are moving around like they know exactly where we're going to shoot." "And the adults?" "They're fighting like they've done this before." Veltek was growing more frustrated by the minute. "You are trained Nexarian soldiers facing primitive humans. How are you having difficulty?" "Sir, with respect, these don't seem like primitive humans. One of their children just hacked into our armor systems and turned off our targeting computers." "That is impossible. Human children do not have that kind of training." "Then someone needs to tell them that, sir, because a little girl just disabled half my squad's weapons remotely." Veltek looked at his tactical display. His boarding teams were scattered throughout the human ship, but instead of making steady progress, they seemed to be getting more confused and disorganized. Red warning lights showed that several teams had lost contact entirely. "All teams, report your status," he commanded. The responses were not encouraging. Team after team reported unexpected resistance, technical difficulties, and confusion about the ship's layout. Worse, several teams reported that human children were actively participating in the defense, not as victims to be protected, but as effective members of the defensive effort. "Commander," Sub-Commander Hishara said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach." "Explain." "Our soldiers are reporting that these humans are not acting like previous human encounters. They seem organized, prepared, and their children are far more capable than our intelligence reports indicated." Veltek's mandibles clicked in annoyance. "They are still just humans. Order all teams to regroup in the main cargo bay and advance together." But even as he gave the order, Veltek felt the first stirring of doubt. Human children operating military systems. Adults fighting with tactical precision? Ships designed like defensive mazes? None of this matched what he knew about human capabilities. "Sir," came another transmission, "Team 12 here. We've been locked in a storage area by a group of human children. They somehow overrode our cutting tools and sealed us in." The youngest one couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Veltek stared at the tactical display, watching as his carefully planned boarding operation turned into chaos. Something was very wrong here, and he was beginning to suspect that his intelligence about humans was seriously incomplete. Commander Veltak paced back and forth on his bridge, his heavy footsteps echoing in the tense silence. 3 hours had passed since his boarding teams entered the human ship, and the situation had only gotten worse. Half of his soldiers were trapped, confused, or unconscious. The other half were reporting things that made no sense. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Thexic's voice crackled through the communication system. "I'm requesting permission to withdraw our forces." Veltek stopped pacing. "Explain your request." "Commander, we're not fighting normal humans. These people have turned their entire ship into a weapon. The children are operating systems that our own young couldn't handle." I just watched a 10-year-old human disable 3 of my soldiers using nothing but the ship's air conditioning system. "You are telling me that human children defeated trained Nixarian warriors?" "Sir, I'm telling you that these children are not what we expected. They're working together like a military unit. They know our equipment better than we do." Veltek felt his scales ripple with frustration. This was supposed to be a simple operation. Board the ship, process the adults, eliminate the useless children, claim the vessel. Instead, his elite soldiers were being outsmarted by creatures that shouldn't even know how to read properly. "All teams, fall back to the entry points," he ordered. "We will try a different approach." As his soldiers began their retreat, Veltek noticed something on his sensors. A small human shuttle was approaching his flagship. His weapons officer looked up questioningly. "It's requesting permission to dock," the weapons officer reported. "Destroy it," Veltek ordered automatically. "Sir, they're transmitting a diplomatic code." "They want to talk," Veltek considered this. Perhaps the humans were finally ready to surrender. Maybe their captain had realized that continuing to fight was hopeless. Allow them to dock. Full security. Escort. 20 minutes later, Veltek found himself in his conference room facing 2 humans. The first was a woman in a white coat with kind eyes and graying hair. She looked completely relaxed, as if visiting an alien warship was something she did every day. The second was a small human child, a boy who couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Veltek had expected Captain Jinho, but instead he was looking at this strange pair. The woman introduced herself as Dr. Minji, the ship's medical officer. The boy remained quiet, but his dark eyes seemed to be studying everything in the room with intense curiosity. "Dr. Minji," Veltak began, trying to sound intimidating, "I assume you are here to discuss surrender terms." The woman smiled gently. "Actually, Commander, I came to talk about understanding. I think there's been a serious misunderstanding between our peoples." "There is no misunderstanding. You are trespassing in Nixarian space. Your ship will be captured, your adults will be processed for labor, and your children will be eliminated according to standard protocol." The small boy looked up at Veltak with interest. "Why do you want to eliminate the children?" he asked in a clear, steady voice. Veltak was surprised by the question. Most human children cowered in fear when they saw a Nixarian. This one seemed genuinely curious. "Children are inefficient," Veltak explained. "They consume resources without producing anything useful. They cannot work effectively and they slow down adult productivity." The boy nodded thoughtfully. "That's an interesting economic model, but what about future productivity? If you eliminate the next generation, who will replace the adult workers when they age out of usefulness?" Veltak blinked. The child was asking questions about long-term resource management. These were concepts that most Nixarian young didn't learn until they reached military age. Dr. Minji leaned forward slightly. "Commander, may I ask how your people educate your children?" "Education is practical," Veltek replied. Young Nixarians learn basic skills needed for their assigned roles. Warriors learn to fight, workers learn to work, leaders learn to command. "And how old are they when they start this education?" 15 cycles. Before that, they are kept in nurseries until they are strong enough for training. The human boy's eyes widened. 15 years? But that's so much wasted time. "I started learning hyperspace mathematics when I was 4. Veltek stared at the child. You know hyperspace mathematics? Of course. Would you like me to show you some calculations? The boy looked around the room and pointed at a wall display. Your ship's hyperspace drive is inefficient. You're losing about 12% energy to dimensional friction because you're not accounting for quantum fluctuations in your field generators. Veltuk's mandibles clicked nervously. He looked at Dr. Minji, who was smiling proudly. This is Tae-yun, she said. He's one of our engineering students. All human children begin advanced education from a very young age. By the time they're Tae-yun's age, they've already learned more than most adults in other species. That is impossible, Veltuk insisted. Children cannot learn complex concepts, Tae-yun tilted his head. Why not? Human brains are most flexible when we're young. That's the best time to learn difficult things. Don't your people know that? Dr. Minji continued. Commander, I think you've misunderstood what human children are. They're not useless consumers of resources. They're our most valuable assets. Every child on our ship has been learning science, engineering, medicine, and tactical thinking since they could walk. The children operating your ship's defenses, Veltuk began, are practicing what they've learned in school, Dr. Minji finished. Systems operation, problem solving, teamwork. What you call fighting, we call education. Veltuk felt something cold settle in his stomach. How many children are on your ship? 12,000, Dr. Minji replied calmly. All of them learning. All of them growing, all of them becoming more capable every day. Tae-yun looked up at the massive alien commander. Sir, would you like me to fix your hyperspace drive? I noticed the problem when we came aboard. It would only take a few hours and you'd save a lot of energy. Veltuk stared down at the small human child who was offering to improve Nexarian technology as casually as discussing the weather. Everything he thought he knew about humans was wrong. They weren't just protecting their children, they were raising them to be more capable than most adult Nexarians. Dr. Minji, Veltuk said slowly, I think we need to continue this conversation. For the first time in his military career, Commander Veltuk was beginning to understand that he might be facing an enemy he couldn't defeat through force. The humans hadn't just survived his previous attack, they had learned from it. And if their children were this capable now, what would they become in 10 years? Commander Veltuk sat alone in his quarters after Dr. Minji and young Tae-yun returned to their ship. His hands shook slightly as he prepared to contact Fleet Admiral Ziegther on the homeworld. The conversation he had just finished replayed in his mind over and over. A human child, barely 8 years old, had identified problems with Nexarian technology that his own engineers had missed. The communication screen flickered to life, showing the scarred face of Admiral Ziegther. The older Nexarian's 4 eyes glowed with impatience. Commander Veltuk, your report indicated an emergency. Have you eliminated the human colony ship? Admiral, we have a problem. A serious problem. Veltuk took a deep breath. The humans are not what we thought they were. Explain quickly. I have 3 other fleet commanders waiting for orders. Sir, their children are not weak or useless. They are highly trained. More trained than our own adults in many areas. Admiral Ziegther's expression darkened. You are telling me that human children defeated your boarding teams? Yes, sir. They operate advanced systems, solve complex problems, and work together like seasoned soldiers. An 8-year-old boy just offered to repair our hyperspace drive because he noticed flaws in the design. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned forward, and Veltuk saw something in his eyes that he had never seen before: fear. Commander, I am sending you classified intelligence. Review it immediately and report back. The transmission ended abruptly. Within minutes, Veltuk's computer received a heavily encrypted file marked with the highest security codes. As he opened it, his blood ran cold. The file contained reports from 3 other Nexarian fleet commanders, all filed within the past year, all involving encounters with humans. All ending in disaster. The first report came from Commander Hector. In the Vega system, his fleet had attacked a human research station with 200 adults and 50 children aboard. The initial assault went well, but then the humans began adapting. Within hours, they had reverse-engineered captured Nexarian weapons and improved them. The children worked alongside adults, learning and building new defenses faster than Hector's forces could adjust their tactics. Most disturbing, Hector had written, was observing a 10-year-old human female reprogram our battle computers during active combat. She accessed systems that should have been impossible for her to understand, let alone modify. The second report was from Commander Yethel in the Volf system. His forces had surrounded a human trading vessel carrying families to a new colony. The humans had requested time to evacuate their children to escape pods. Yethel had agreed, thinking it would make the adults easier to capture. Instead, the children had turned the escape pods into guided missiles, using them to disable 3 Nexarian destroyers. A 12-year-old boy had calculated the exact trajectories needed to knock out the ship's weapons without killing anyone aboard. The human children, Yethel reported, treated the entire battle like a learning exercise. They seemed more interested in studying our technology than in their own survival. The third report made Veltak's scales go completely cold. Commander Zexrin had encountered a human civilian convoy in the Centauri system. The convoy included several families with children, ranging from 5 to 15 years old. Zexrin had captured the entire group and brought them aboard his flagship for processing. The children had escaped within 6 hours. Not only escaped, but they had also taken control of Zexrin's ship, locked down all weapon systems, and broadcast the entire incident to nearby human settlements. They did this while their parents were unconscious in holding cells. The 15-year-old human, Zexrin wrote, knew our ship's systems better than my chief engineer. She had studied our technology during the 6 hours of captivity and learned to operate it perfectly. When I asked how this was possible, she said it was basic engineering principles that any human child would understand. Veltak read through additional reports attached to the file. Each one told a similar story. Human children learning impossibly fast. Human families working together with tactical precision. Human technology improving in real time as they encountered alien systems, but the most disturbing part was the pattern. Each encounter was more sophisticated than the last. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were learning from every battle. Every interaction, every piece of captured technology. Admiral Ziegler's face appeared on screen again. This time he looked much older than Veltak remembered. "You have read the reports?" the Admiral asked. "Yes, sir, all of them." "Then you understand our situation. We have not been fighting a primitive species. We have been fighting a species that treats combat with us as educational opportunity for their young." Veltak felt sick. "Admiral, how long has this been happening?" "The first encounter was 18 months ago. Since then, we have lost 12 ships, had our technology stolen and improved, and watched human settlements spread faster than we can track them." The Admiral paused. "Commander, we are not losing to human adults. We are losing to human children who see our advanced technology as homework assignments." "What are your orders, sir?" Admiral Ziegler looked directly at Veltak. "Emergency Protocol 7 is now in effect. All Nexarian forces are to avoid human contact immediately. We are establishing a quarantine zone around all known human territories. Sir, we outnumber them. Our technology is still superior. We could fight them. Commander, use your brain. If their 8-year-olds can outsmart our engineers, what will their 18-year-olds be capable of? If their children today can reverse engineer our weapons in hours, what will they build from scratch in 10 years? Veltak understood. The Nexarian Empire, with all its power and technology, was retreating from a species because their children learned too fast. "There is more," the Admiral continued. "Intelligence reports indicate that other human colonies are sharing information. Every encounter we have teaches all of them. Every mistake we make gets transmitted to every human settlement in the galaxy. They are all learning from our attacks?" "Yes, and their children are the ones processing the information and developing countermeasures." Admiral Ziegler's voice grew grim. "Commander, we may have accidentally created the most dangerous enemy the galaxy has ever seen." Not because they are strong, but because they never stop learning, and they start learning from birth. Veltek stared at the screen, finally understanding the true horror of the situation. The Nixarian Empire hadn't just failed to destroy the humans. They had been teaching them how to fight back, one encounter at a time. Commander Veltek stood on his bridge, staring at the human colony ship on his main screen. The emergency withdrawal order from Admiral Ziegler was clear. All Nixarian forces were to retreat immediately and establish a quarantine zone around human territories. But Veltek felt the weight of failure crushing down on him. He had come here to destroy a simple colony ship and instead discovered that his entire species had been fighting a war they couldn't win. "Sir," Sub-Commander Hishara approached cautiously, "the fleet is ready to depart. All boarding teams have been recovered. Casualties?" Veltek asked without taking his eyes off the human ship. "None dead, sir. But 47 soldiers are unconscious from various human non-lethal weapons. Another 23 are suffering from what our medical officer calls educational shock." Educational shock? They keep talking about human children, explaining complex theories to them while disabling their equipment. Dr. Krill says they need time to process what they experienced. Veltek nodded grimly. His own soldiers were traumatized not by violence, but by the casual intelligence of human children. It would have been laughable if it weren't so terrifying. "Commander," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Put it through." Captain Jinho appeared on screen again, but this time he wasn't alone. Standing beside him were Dr. Minji and young Taeyun, along with a girl who looked about 12 years old with bright, curious eyes. "Commander Veltek," Captain Jinho began, "we understand you're preparing to leave. Before you go, our children wanted to give you something." Veltek felt his scales ripple with nervousness. "What kind of gift?" The 12-year-old girl stepped forward. "Hello, Commander. My name is Sora. We've been studying your ships while you were visiting ours. We noticed some problems with your technology that we thought you might want to fix." "Problems?" Veltek asked, though he dreaded the answer. Young Taeyun pulled out a tablet device. "Your shield generators are operating at only 68% efficiency because of harmonic resonance in the power. Coupling systems also. Your weapons targeting computers have a timing delay that makes them less accurate against fast-moving targets." Sora nodded enthusiastically. "We also found 17 ways to improve your hyperspace navigation system. Oh, and your life support systems are wasting energy because they're not properly recycling atmospheric gases." Veltek stared at the two human children who had just identified multiple flaws in Nixarian military technology after observing his ships for only a few hours. "How do you know all this?" "We learned it in school," Sora said simply. "Physics, engineering, systems analysis. All human children study these subjects." Dr. Minji smiled at Veltek's expression. "Commander, what Sora and Taeyun are trying to say is that we'd like to help you fix these problems. Consider it a gesture of friendship. You want to help us?" Veltek was confused. "We came here to destroy you." "We know," Captain Jinho replied. "But we also know that you are acting on incomplete information about our people. Now that we understand each other better, maybe we can find a better way forward." Taeyun looked up at the massive alien commander on the screen. "Sir, we've prepared detailed technical specifications that will improve your fleet's performance by approximately 30%. We're transmitting them to your computers now?" Veltek looked at his technical officer, who was staring at his console with wide eyes. "Sir, they're sending us complete engineering blueprints. These improvements, they're incredible. Our ships could operate for months longer between maintenance cycles with these modifications." "Why?" Veltek asked, looking back at the humans. "Why help us after we attacked you?" Sora tilted her head thoughtfully. "Because learning is better when it's shared. We learned about your technology by observing it. Now we're sharing what we learned with you." "That's how knowledge grows." Dr. Minji stepped forward. "Commander, our children see this entire encounter as a learning experience. They're not angry about the attack. They're excited about the opportunity to study a new alien species and their technology. Your children treat warfare as education? Veltok asked. Human children treat everything as education, Captain Jinho replied. That's what makes them so adaptable. Every new situation is a chance to learn something. Veltok received an urgent message from his communications officer. Admiral Ziegther was demanding an immediate status report. The commander looked once more at the human family on his screen. The adults were calm and reasonable, but it was the children that truly terrified him. They looked at his advanced warships the same way Nexarian young might look at simple toys. Captain Jinho, Veltok said slowly, we will be departing now. The Nexarian Empire is establishing a quarantine zone around human space. Quarantine? Dr. Minji asked. Are you afraid of us? Veltok considered lying, but decided these humans deserved honesty. Yes, we are afraid of you. Not because you are violent, but because you learn too quickly. Your children master in hours what takes our adults years to understand. Taeyeon looked puzzled. But that's good, isn't it? The faster we learn, the faster we can solve problems and help each other. From your perspective, yes, Veltok replied. From ours, it means that in a few years, your children will know more about our technology than we do. They will be able to build things we cannot imagine. Sora's eyes lit up with excitement. Really? That sounds wonderful. Maybe someday we can teach your children too, and they can learn faster as well. The innocent enthusiasm in the girl's voice made Veltok's blood run cold. She wasn't talking about conquest or domination. She was talking about education. But the result would be the same. Human knowledge spreading throughout the galaxy, carried by children who saw learning as the most natural thing in the universe. Goodbye, humans, Veltok said quietly. I hope we meet again under better circumstances. As his fleet turned away from the human colony ship, Veltok began composing his final report. The Nexarian Empire had encountered a species that turned their greatest weakness, their children, into their most powerful asset. Every human child was a potential scientist, engineer, tactician, or innovator. They didn't just protect their young. They weaponized their curiosity and turned learning into a strategic advantage. The humans would continue to their colony world. They would build their settlement, raise their children, and teach them everything they had learned from this encounter. And someday those children would grow up and have children of their own, passing on not just human knowledge, but everything they had learned about Nexarian technology as well. Veltok's final report would recommend complete avoidance of human space. Not because humans were aggressive, but because they were something far more dangerous. They were teachers. And their students never stopped learning.